Fun with Failure.
Welcome to Fun with Failure, TIFU edition, episode 40. I like using sci-fi cuss words for the thrill of it. We have stories of 6 megheads I hope you enjoy, so sit in your go-ram seat and enjoy. Here we go. This happened last night. I'm a very light sleeper, and I typically wear earplugs during the night. So last night I woke up approximately around 3 a.m. I needed to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom and pee, and then I decided that I was also thirsty. So I'm going to head to the kitchen to get a drink. I proceed to the kitchen, open the fridge, and get a drink of tea. As I'm getting my drink, I hear something outside. Most likely nothing, but I'm a little startled since I can't hear so well with earplugs in. I don't think much of it. Put my tea back in the refrigerator and head back to bed. As I'm turning the corner to head into the bedroom, I see a figure standing in front of me. Being a bit jumpy from hearing the noise outside and seeing this figure in front of me, my reaction was to grab whoever it was by the front of their shirt and punch them as hard as I could. It was like in slow motion. As my fist was moving forward in the air, a small part of my brain was saying, "No, don't, that's your fiance." But it was too late. My fist connects with her face. She starts crying. I start apologizing and asking why she was getting up in the middle of the night. Stupid question. She says, "I was thirsty, you jerk." She is very angry, but she went and got her a drink, and we went back to bed. I feel really bad, and her eyes are both black and blue, and she has a presentation this week for her class. She's still rather upset about the whole thing. I'm guessing she's gonna have a reminder of that for quite a while. Here's a bit of information before we get to the weird bit. My bearded dragon is still a juvenile, and he's extremely tiny. He really doesn't like to be held often, so when I take him out, I usually have him out for longer periods of time than most reptile owners do. This is because I can clean him, feed him, clean his cage, do all the bearded dragon chores at once, etc., while letting him sit on my shoulder, that kind of thing. You can imagine that all that time on his hands and all that time out of his cage, my bearded dragon has seen some weird stuff. Speaking of my house, this will be important later. It's like 9,000 degrees, 24/7, because there's no windows, and there's no way for heat to escape easily. It's in a small room where this story took place, so it gets extremely hot. So today, like any other day, I decided that I would take out Leonard, my little beardy, out of his cage, sit down in my chair, and put him on my shoulder. I booted up some Doom. Leonard did his thing basking on my arms, and things were going great for the both of us. This went on for about 30 minutes or so. Then I got really hot. My house is pretty secluded, so I'm sure that most of you readers will understand. I took off my pants and underwear because it was freaking hot. Now this is where it gets interesting. I went to scratch my neck, having momentarily forgotten my bearded dragon was sitting on my shoulder. I bumped him with my wrist, and being the little rascal that he is, he attempted to evade my hand, probably thinking that it was time to go back to his cage. Evasion isn't his strong suit though, and he backed off of my shoulder, sliding down my chest toward my lower stomach. Rule number 1 of handling bearded dragons: if they're escaping from you, don't make any sudden movements, and try not to grab them, especially by the tail. I desperately attempted to grab him, initially shocked by the fact that he had fallen, afraid that he might try to run away or fall off of my chair. In the process of trying to grab him, I spooked him again, making him go further down my body. He had his front legs fully extended and making a hissing noise. I instantly feared for my genitals, and I tried to move my hips slowly and calmly without scaring him again. I wanted to try to roll my body over and let him slide off my body, but instead, I accidentally pinched his tail in between my legs and lower abdomen. Needless to say, Leonard bit my testicles, and it caused me to jump upright out of my chair and with some of the weirdest pain signals I've ever felt. Now I'm watching Leonard scurry away under my computer desk. At the end of the day, I had to apply some terry strips to the wounds that I had sustained. Then I had to spend an extra 10 to 15 minutes trying to coax the bearded dragon out with some applesauce. So today, about 5 minutes before my shift started, I was looking at the desk in the back, and I realized a small circular object that looked like an alien. It had 2 eyes, then a mouth that was pretty small at the bottom of it. Stupid me, Not knowing what the heck it was, I decided to push both of the buttons to see what would happen. And the mouth part, well, it lit up red for a second. Holding it in my hand, my manager walks past and I say, "Hey Kyle, what is this thing?" His eyes go into panic mode and he says,
"Whatever you do not push that button."
I'm like, "Well, what is it?"
"It's a silent alarm. Put it back."
I just think, oh crap. I kinda pushed it like 2 minutes ago.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah. Crap. He goes and tells the other managers and they're like, oh holy crap. They know the cops are gonna show up any second. And even if they were called, they are still required to come anyways. To add to this, before they come, they're supposed to call the store to see if it was a false alarm. Or if we didn't answer, there was actually an emergency. Well, guess what? Our phone system was down today and we couldn't receive calls. A few minutes later, as I'm working, all of my coworkers and managers start looking outside like, holy crap. I'm like, what? Turns out the whole perimeter was being surrounded by law enforcement. Nothing happens for a couple of more minutes until a whole fleet of cops flood in the building. One of them starts talking with my managers while the others are searching the whole restaurant. Everyone in the building eating was like, what the actual heck is going on? After the whole situation was explained, everything was resolved and they all left. But boy, was it a mistake on my part. Lesson learned, don't push random buttons at work. To add even more to this, 2 of the cops that raided the place, they came in a few hours later to get something to eat. I obviously gave them their food for free, and they were really happy about that. One of them asked me,
"So who was the jerk who set off the alarm?"
I was like, that was me, officer. I started explaining the story and how it happened. They were both laughing their heads off. They said it was fine because it happens all the time, surprisingly. They was just happy they got some free dinner. Well, I'm glad I could make their night better. This all happened 2 weeks ago. I just finally got out and got my phone back. So now I can start off by telling you a little background. I'm a first-year university student of psychology, and I decided that I was going to take it seriously and put some work into my studies. Therefore, I wanted to attend every class with no excuses. For the last month, I was calculating the amount of time that I would need to travel from my city to the one that my university is at, and additionally, how long it will take for me to walk from the bus stop to the building where my classes are. After that time, I came up with a routine that would let me sleep an additional 20 minutes. But still be on time for my classes. One day, the bus driver was really slacking off. Could have been weather conditions, I don't know, I was sleeping. I realized I was going to run late. This means I'm going to have to run, instead of having a chill walk. There are about 1 million light stops on my way there, so you can imagine how much time was left. So I decided to save time. I would run through some of the red lights to kind of shave off some time. I looked around though, to see if there are no cops around to catch me breaking the law. The last stop, right in front of my university. It's a very busy road, and it takes really long for the lights to switch. I'm already 5 minutes late, but I've got to make the best out of it. I just go straight up and run right in front of a car. The driver barely dodged me, and guess what? 2 cops emerged in front of me. They came out of nowhere. They started asking me what the crap I thought I was doing. I didn't want to get a ticket, so I had to come up with a good excuse, and not just being late for class. So I blurted out that I wanted to kill myself. It was especially believable since no sane human being would run through a busy road on a red light, especially right in front of a pair of cops. I just didn't see them. I was too busy watching the road and not actually getting hit. I thought they would actually let me go, but I was wrong. They called for an ambulance to get me checked out, and I was so scared at this point to actually tell them the truth, so I decided to go with it. They drove me to the hospital. I thought. In fact, they did drive me to a hospital, but not the kind of hospital I thought. They gave me some meds and they asked me for my belongings, and if I wanted my family to be notified. I obviously said no. I had to talk about the incident with a psychiatrist, and I had to attend those meetings with other people who actually wanted to kill themselves. It was such a shameful experience for me. I ended up missing 2 weeks of university and hospital, just for trying to save 10 minutes of one class. Lots of work waiting for me and lots of explaining to do to my parents and friends. Lesson learned. So today, I had a dentist appointment, and the most awkward moment in my life happened. So my dentist had his hands down my throat, doing toothy things, when he asked me.
What kind of music do you like?
Now, a bit about myself. I'm a lonely, antisocial moron who likes literally nothing better than to talk to people about music. So when the words left the man's mouth, my dark glass-covered eyes lit up. With great pride in my voice, I smugly responded, "Just about every type under the sun." Or at least that's what I thought I said. What I actually said was, I never got to finish that sentence, as my words were cut off by the dentist's screams. Turns out in my haste to talk to someone, I had forgotten that the best place to do so isn't exactly lying down in a reclined chair with your mouth wide open and another man's hands exploring your throat. I had bitten the poor man's finger, and it was literally leaking blood. But that wasn't even the worst part. When I had bitten the man, it had also bitten a part of his blue latex glove off. The bloody thing managed to work his way into my trachea, and I was choking. This would be fine if it wasn't for the fact that a lot of dentist blood was still in my mouth, so I managed to cough all of this up as well, all over the face of the horrified assistant who was holding the spit sucker thingy. With assurance from the dentist and nurse that this happens all of the time, I hurriedly left the room and ran downstairs. When I got to the receptionist, the lady there asked me, "That was quite a racket up there. What happened?" I didn't even answer. I signed my name on a form that I didn't even bother to read, and I ran out of the building. This story takes place in Wisconsin in February. It's freaking freezing outside. I was in college, and after a long week of classes, I walked a half a mile from my house to the downtown area, where I met my boyfriend and friend at my favorite pub. After drinking way too much beers, and getting my butt thoroughly kicked at foosball, I decided to square up my bill and walk home. My boyfriend and our friend decided that they wanted to take the party to my place, so they walked with me. As it was cold and snowy out, we all bundled up, and we started to trek down a fairly busy street toward my apartment. 5 minutes into the walk, I realized I should have peed before leaving the bar. 10 minutes in, I just can't hold it anymore. We pass a huge house with a big yard, and I noticed in the backyard is a huge pine tree, perfect for concealing my public urination from passing cars. This was my opportunity. I walked behind the tree, and I realized that if anyone was in the house, they could see me if they looked through the window. So I decided to burrow down into the branches on the side of the tree instead. I found this nice wide opening in the branches. I shuffled in, dropped trow, and let the urination flow without incident. In my drunkenness, I struggled to pull up my pants with bulky mittens, and it was also probably cold enough that when I peed, that splatter would quickly freeze on my shoes. With my pants pulled up to my knees, I slipped and fell on a pine branch. It was clear that I had a pretty severely scratched butt, but I was drunk enough to finish my walk home. I was crying as my friend tried to distract me from the pain. When we arrived at my place, I asked my boyfriend to come to the bathroom and tell me how bad it was. I pulled down my pants and bent over. He was silent for a long while, and when I looked over my shoulder to see his face, it was one of shock and concern. "Well?" I asked through tears. "Probably want to wear a couple of pairs of shorts to bed tonight. And maybe you want to sleep on a dark towel too," he replied. This worried me a lot, but he assured me that it would look just kinda bloody, but it would probably be easier to assess the damage in the morning after a shower. I drank another glass of whiskey and I passed out in my double gym shorts. I woke up 7 hours later, sore, with a full bladder. I rushed to the bathroom and pee, not yet recalling what just happened last night. I finished my morning pee and then I wiped. Pain. Lots and lots of pain. I looked into the toilet bowl and I was horrified to what I saw. The water was a deep shade of red from all the blood. I woke up my boyfriend and I asked him to drive me to urgent care. On the way, I asked him to take a detour so that we could see the scene of the accident. As we drove by, it was impossible to miss. There was a bright red patch in the powdery snow. It looked like a small animal had been massacred there. I arrived at the hospital, and I was seen quickly. The first doctor to meet me was a youngish male, and after explaining my problem, he asked if I would prefer a female doctor. I assured him that I didn't care about the doctor's gender. Even if this would normally be an issue, I wouldn't assume any doctor would be turned on by that bloody sight. Still, he insisted that I see a female doctor. I still take issue to this. I mean, what the heck? Anyway, I had to get into a hospital bed on all fours, naked from the waist down. I gulped down some painkillers and cranberry juice, and the nurse fed me some graham crackers like a horse, as another nurse picked out the bark from a deep puncture wound right next to my butthole. They cleaned and dressed my wound, and then my doctor came in, prescribed me some medication, and sent me on my way. I missed a whole week of class, lying on my couch, eating nothing but cheese cubes and Vicodin, trying not to poop. 3 times a day I would have my boyfriend or my best friend change my dressings and clean my butt wound. Yeah, that was loads of fun for the both of us, as you would probably imagine. I now have a huge scar on my butthole. I think I might be one of the few people that could be identified by their butthole in a lineup. In retrospect, I really should have tried to hold it. And really, peeing my pants wouldn't have been the worst thing that could happen. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, you must not be a patak. So here's a challenge. Can you tell me where those sci-fi cuss words came from? Leave them down in the comments. I like to see how many people would get it right. Yeah, I'm a pretty big nerd. I've watched all of these. If you like these stories, push that frackin' like button. If you want to hear more funny stories like this in the future, please hit that subscribe button. Well, Shazbot, I have to go. Have a great day.